You think Rick's intergalactic atrocities make him the worst? Think again, his cruelest acts are aimed right at the people he loves. Imagine your grandpa pitching you a dreamland to play in, then dropping you in it alone. That's Fruipyland, Rick's handmade theme park for Beth's dangerous whims, where one little friend definitely just starved to death.
He definitely just starved to death.
Picture a roller coaster fueled by assassins, Jerry pleading for his life as Rick cracks jokes, or Morty calmly burying his own corpse while Rick shrugs it off as another Tuesday. This is where Rick's true family legacy begins, and trust us, it only gets darker from here. We drop into Beth's world, a world Rick literally built for her. Kids have sandbox fantasies. Rick gave his daughter Fruipyland. But instead of a playground, it was a catastrophe. Rick created Fruipyland as a supposedly safe pocket dimension playground for Beth, joking it's procedurally generated clouds and rainbows. So much for child-proofing. Fruipyland wasn't a benign nursery, it was a death trap. As Beth angrily points out, she could have starved to death in that glorified chicken coop, and her toy friend Tommy did, until they later discover that he didn't. Rick just blithely insists the creatures are harmless, and Tommy definitely just starved to death, twice victimizing Beth with chilling indifference. Even worse, Rick rubs salt in the wound. Years later, when Beth confronts him, Rick's big solution is, relax, let's find Tommy's skeleton. He'll be the only one with real DNA. And then, like some final twisted power move, Rick clones Beth and erases his own memory so none of them know who the real Beth is. Beth wakes up thinking she made the choice to save herself, when in reality, Rick flipped a coin on her identity. It's mind-bending cruelty, two sisters who can't even trust their own memories. No matter what strength or swagger Beth might display, she's locked in an identity limbo Rick created. But here's where it gets weird. Rick frames all this as if he's the victim of Beth's drama. He gaslights her trauma. I put elbow grease into this place, Fruipyland. I think the words you're looking for are just before being flown off by a giant bird. The man literally avoids responsibility by jumping off cliffs and feeding on bouncing ground. Meanwhile, Beth just got a lifetime of daddy issues wrapped in a Twilight Zone. Did Rick actually love his daughter, or did he abuse his genius for a twisted joke? We'll never know. One thing's certain, Beth's family history is forever scarred. Rick's gift of Fruipyland and the never-ending clone fiasco leave Beth existentially alone. So if Beth thought killing her clone would end this horror, guess again, the nightmare was Rick all along. So who's next on Rick's list of victims? Consider Jerry's luck. He survives being stranded in space, then gets traded back to Earth only to find his house still intact. Miracle. But Rick has a special brand of family time for poor Jerry. Case in point, the whirly-durly vacation. Jerry thinks he's getting a break from divorce blues. In reality, Rick's treating him like lab rat bait. Jerry is shanghaied onto a high-tech roller coaster, lured by promises of adventure. When he panics, Rick just waves him on. Let's go. The fate of the galaxy rests on your shoulders. Put on some pants. I'll make you a pair on the way. Classic Rick, right? Jerry figures Rick's baiting him into suicide by space fun, and he's not entirely wrong. During the ride, hitmen open fire. One assassin even mans a giant snake pointed at Jerry's head. Rick nonchalantly brawls in zero-G, grinning. Jerry is actually killed by the snake, then instantly revived by the resort's immortality field. Jerry's moment of truth comes in midair, facing death, and Rick only survives because Jerry knows the ride's glitch. In that insane freefall, Jerry realizes Rick put him there on purpose. When Jerry finally confronts him, he explodes. You self-righteous piece of shit, you took my family. Talk about a breakout quote. Rick snaps back about how Jerry ruined Beth's life with a magic wedding night dose. Who do you think had more taken from them when you shot 20 cc's of liquid dream killer into my daughter? She was Rick's daughter. Jerry, she had options. Let that sink in. Jerry's mortal terror at being devoured is treated like a joke. Rick belittles him through and through, first by toying with his life on the coaster, then by claiming the whole fiasco is somehow Jerry's fault. Even after saving him from snake chomping, Rick straps Jerry to an alien monster as bait for another predator, just to show him how it feels. Meanwhile, Jerry is left crawling out of the jungle, shaken and humiliated. And when he tries to reach his family after this debacle, Rick calmly locks his door, toys with anti-intrusion tech, and waves goodbye as if he's leaving Jerry behind on purpose. That's the cosmic punchline. Jerry ends the episode convinced the universe agrees with him. Rosado, the would-be assassin, actually lets Jerry Jerry go just because Jerry is a pathetic excuse of a man not worth a bullet. Rick, for his part, just shrugs and says, "Yeah, you're mean." No offense, calling Jerry mean in front of the assassin. Rick's twisted lesson for Jerry is complete. He's cemented Jerry's place as the punchline. But if Rick can treat his son-in-law like this, what's stopping him from doing even worse? Next up, the boy Rick actually calls his grandson Morty Smith, Rick's loyal sidekick, and apparently all-purpose punching bag. Rick's treatment of Morty reads like a horror story for kids. Let's tick off just the big hits. First, the Cronenberg catastrophe. Rick tries a love potion. It backfires spectacularly. The whole town turns into grotesque monsters. Rick's response? A shrug. I really Cronenberged the world up, didn't I? We got a whole planet of Cronenbergs walking around down there, Morty. Instead of fixing it, Rick picks himself and Morty up mid-dismemberment by catapulting them into a parallel reality. When Morty screams, Rick calmly lectures, "Calm down, Morty. An infinite number of realities. In a few dozen of those, I turned things back to normal. I found one where we both die around this time, so we can slip in." And then, in one of the series' coldest moments, Rick hands Morty his own dead body and says, "Help me with these bodies." Imagine being Morty there, holding his own corpse in an alien field, and Rick says, "Hurry up." This is Rick's idea of salvage. Use your own murder in another dimension so your mistakes never matter. Morty walks out of that episode with PTSD. He and Summer now live in a world of strangers, carrying 2 graves in their psyche. And that's barely the start. Rick's taught Morty to kill for fun. From shooting alien rich folks to decimating mobs in Purge-like episodes, Morty has more body count than any 4 adults. We see Morty callingly slaughter villagers in suit armor while Rick plays cheerleader. It's a justifiable massacre to Rick. Morty's sick escapism to Rick. When Morty looks at the carnage, Rick nods approvingly. "Good job, Morty," he says, as if raising him on genocide. Then there's the constant brainwash. Rick erases Morty's memories of anything remotely traumatic. He wipes Morty's mind dozens of times, piling mistake experiences into one brain-dead orbit. "Morty, you're not gonna remember this." "Yeah, okay, Rick." Every time Morty shows fear or doubt, Rick just flips the memory switch. Morty loses hours, days, months of his life and gets a cartoonish quip in return. No wonder Morty is a basket case by now. Morty's entire childhood has been Rick's learning experience. And guess what Rick considers Morty's biggest sin? Being annoyed at the same grandpa who made him bury his own body. Morty nearly snapped as Rick defended. "You're too stupid to get this, Morty," berating him for questioning anything. Rick's final verdict: Morty's the worst, as dumb as a bag of sand. Morty replies, "Rick, I'm not letting you let my sister die." Rick sneers, "I wasn't gonna let her die, you moron." Even though it's exactly what Morty thought in that moment. The logic is foul. Rick doesn't comfort Morty after all this. He blames Morty for not understanding. Morty's deep trauma and Rick's murderous pride come full circle. So Morty survived being practically resold as spare organ donor by the universe. Who's next to feel Rick's wrath? If Rick can almost sit back and watch his grandson descend into nightmare, what about others around him? Birdperson is, in Rick's terms, a blurry old friend. We saw them fight side by side against the Galactic Federation, but friendship doesn't mean sanctuary from Rick's indifference. When Birdperson's wedding to Tammy goes up in flames, Rick's betrayal burns brightest. We see Bird stand up for Rick, even telling Tammy, "Rick, I am pleased you and your family came." But as Tammy draws her gun, Rick can only watch. "Birdperson? Tammy?" He calls out. Too late. Tammy opens fire. Birdperson collapses bleeding, and Rick screams, not to save him, but in shock. Birdperson, no! There's no heroic dive to catch the bullets. No portal magic escape. Rick helplessly watched his oldest friend gunned down while he stood frozen on the sidelines. And then, in the pain of loss, Birdperson's body is recovered by the Galactic Federation. In a dark, mad scientist move, Birdperson's broken body is dismantled and stored on Rick's shelf, essentially canned for Rick's use. Later in Season 3, that corpse reappears as Phoenix Person, a cyborg assassin with a feathered scream. In the post-credits scene, Tammy herself orders the resurrection. Birdperson rises up and calmly says, "I am Phoenix Person." So Rick's friend is first incinerated on the dance floor, then literally brought back from the dead as Rick's pawn. Birdperson the rebel poet is reborn as a cyber warrior. And Rick? He nonchalantly keeps his undead friend tucked in storage until he's needed. Bird's psyche, his very soul, became a casualty of Rick's utility. Rick treated Birdperson like a broken gadget, useful parts to be rebooted. If Rick can do this to his lifelong buddy, who else is just bits and bolts in his garage? Summer's lucky number turns out to be 0 because Rick couldn't care less about her safety either. By now, we should stop imagining Rick as grandpa on playdates. He's more like a grand scientist who'll happily turn Summer into prey. It starts small. Summer's just a teenage girl begging for attention after a breakup. Rick supplies a machine to augment her confidence. The family insult turned out to have a sinister edge. Summer's bright idea: enlarge her assets to win back her ex. Cue disaster. The Morphizer backfires horribly. One moment, Summer's just an insecure teen. Next, she's a grotesque humanoid giant trapped in the garage. Her body parts are wildly disproportionate, all stretched out like some horror cartoon. Morty and Beth rush in to help, working that gadget with more faith than Rick ever shows in Summer homework. They dial her down, but she's still a giant. And then Beth accidentally and hilariously zaps her again, turning Summer inside out. Imagine that. Poor Summer, the introspective kid, has to wander around as a living, twisted anatomical nightmare. Rick strolls by and deadpans about his toilet-making genius. Summer ends up with something worse. When she finally walks in, she's radiating body parts from behind. One of the first things she hears? Morty shooting sarcastic small talk and Jerry lamenting having forgotten coffee cups. Rick? He's backstage, likely posting Morphizer might need a patch on Reddit. But that's just one episode. Rick's negligence goes deeper. In Season 4's Pro Mortius, Rick literally forgets Summer is alive. Face-hugging aliens take Rick and Morty on a space joyride, and they completely leave Summer behind in the alien world. Summer, stranded with a toothpick in her mouth, ends up worshipped as some kind of alien queen, raising an entire race of glued-together face-huggers, all because Rick stole Glorzo eggs as part of his plan to sabotage and destroy the hive. By the time Rick comes back, it's Summer who's rescuing him and Morty from jail, having built a kingdom of dead-eyed flunkies around herself. In short, Rick has endangered Summer every chance he gets, from making her a big-eyed monster for a girlfriend to abandoning her on a murderous cult planet. He cares so little that when he does remember her, he basically says, "Good job learning your own lesson," and pockets an apology form. Through Rick's eyes, Summer's just another piece on the chessboard or a piece of art lesson. Summer's Trophy, a set of twisted memories and a valid reason to scream. But if Rick treats the kid this way, what does that say about whatever children he meets? The bigger question is, if no one, not even his smartest sidekick, best friend, or grandkids, is safe from Rick's science-fueled cruelty, who actually is? The Smiths wake up daily dodging Rick's chaos. As for Rick, maybe that's the point. In the Rick and Morty multiverse, family bonds are science experiments gone horribly wrong. Rick's love is a one-way ticket to trauma. Invite anyone into Rick's orbit and they might just end up broken. He shattered Beth's identity, turned Jerry into a punchline, warped Morty's world, butchered Birdperson's soul, and maimed Summer's body, all with that trademark Rick grin. So the real question hanging over this saga, is Rick the twisted hero of the story or the villain? If even his loved ones are collateral damage, maybe the real monster is the one wearing Rick's face. What nightmare will Rick create next? Only time and possibly the next episode will tell.